Welcome to Rise Up Voices from the Front Lines, your window into relationship, identity, safety, emotional awareness, regulation and intelligence, unleashed potential, passion and purpose.
Welcome back to Rise Up Voices from the Front Lines, and this is a Trauma-Informed Leadership Series episode. I'm your host, Krista Fee, and today we're continuing with a special conference Q&A. Yesterday, we heard from school leaders, nonprofit directors, and first responder captains. Today, we'll expand the conversation. You'll hear voices from hospitals, the military, community activism, parents, and even the next generation of leaders. So let's just jump right in. So our first question comes from a hospital administrator. So, Krista, I run a hospital unit. Burnout is rampant. Nurses are leaving in record numbers, and the pandemic left scars that we're still uncovering. What does trauma-informed leadership mean in a medical setting where the pressure never lets up? Where the pressure never lets up. I can feel the weight of this question, and you are not alone. Medical leaders are carrying one of the heaviest loads right now. Trauma-informed leadership in hospitals begins with acknowledging that burnout is not a personal weakness. It's an occupational hazard of sustained trauma exposure. So what does this look like in practice? It looks like normalizing debriefs after patient loss instead of pretending that it's just part of the job. Rotating staff through high-intensity units so no one is always in the trauma bay. Embedding short regulation practices into shifts. Even 2 minutes of breath work or grounding before walking into the next room can make all of the difference. It's modeling transparency when resources are stretched thin. Here's what we can do, here's what we can't, and here's how we're working to bridge the gap. When leaders stay steady, communicate openly, and integrate care into the workflow, they give staff permission to be human. And in healthcare, that's not a luxury. It is literally survival. Our audience member number 2 is a military officer. I serve in the military, and I believe in discipline and order. But my soldiers are carrying invisible wounds from deployments. Suicide has touched my unit more than once. How do I apply trauma-informed leadership without undermining readiness? Much of trauma-informed leader is a paradox. We need strong, disciplined warriors, and yet we can't imagine the weight that they carry. Trauma-informed leadership in the military, it doesn't replace discipline, it enhances it. Because regulation under fire is the ultimate readiness. And here's how this is work. You're going to train emotional regulation the same way that you train tactical drills. Breath work. Grounding, maybe even something like laughter exercises in downtime to build nervous system resilience. You're going to model accountability. When leaders seek counseling, when they admit the toll of war, it normalizes that strength, and the need to ask for support is normalized. You're going to build buddy systems, peers checking on each other, not just for equipment, but for signs of despair. Readiness is not just having weapons cleaned and gear packed. It's having minds and hearts regulated enough to make wise decisions under pressure. Trauma-informed leadership saves lives in combat and at home. Audience member number 3 is a parent leader of a PTA. I'm not running an organization, but I do lead in my child's school through the PTA. Sometimes I feel like our influence is small. Does trauma-informed leadership fly even at this level? Absolutely. Leadership is not about titles or scale. It's about impact. Trauma-informed leadership in the PTA can look like creating safer spaces for kids and parents to be seen and supported. We want everyone to feel seen and supported. For example, maybe you build a parent workshop on emotional regulation at home. Maybe you advocate for the school to adopt restorative practices instead of suspensions. Maybe you organize community circles when crisis happens so that parents feel less isolated. Even the language that you use matters, shifting conversations from these kids are bad to these kids are carrying heavy stories. These small shifts, they can shape how teachers, parents, and students see themselves. Never underestimate the power of one leader in a small context. Movements begin with moments like these. Social justice activist. I'm working in activism and the rage in my community is real. People are tired of being dismissed, but sometimes I worry that our language dehumanizes the other side. How does trauma-informed leadership navigate justice without slipping into vengeance? Ooh, this is one of the hardest questions that leaders face. Rage is real and it's valid. It can fuel action. But when rage becomes dehumanization, we risk replicating the very harm that we're fighting against. Trauma-informed leadership says separate the behavior from the identity. We can call out injustice fiercely. These policies are harmful. These systems are unjust, without branding entire groups of people as irredeemable. Research in both psychology and justice systems shows that when accountability is carried out with dignity, it builds trust, even if consequences are harsh. But when contempt drives language, repair becomes almost impossible. So as a leader, you have to model fierce accountability and fierce humanity. That's what keeps justice from turning into vengeance. We have a young professional early in their career. I'm just starting out as a team lead in a corporate setting. I don't have much authority yet, but I want to lead well. What does trauma-informed leadership look like when you're low on the ladder? Again, a question about power. Honestly, some of the most powerful trauma-informed leadership happens in the middle, not at the top. Culture shifts peer to peer. And here's what you can do even without positional power. Again, model repair. When you make a mistake, apologize. It shows integrity and builds safety. Use grounding language. In tense meetings, say things like, let's pause, take a breath, and regroup. You'll be amazed how many people will follow you. Listen laterally. Notice the colleagues who aren't speaking. Invite their input. This breaks silos and creates inclusion. Set boundaries. Say no with dignity when workloads become unrealistic. This models self-respect and creates space for others to do the same. Trauma-informed leadership is less about the corner office and more about how you regulate yourself, how you treat others, and how you build micro environments of safety. And our audience member number 6 is a CEO of a mid-sized company. Growth is our challenge. We're scaling fast, but I'm worried about losing our values. How can trauma-informed leadership help us multiply impact without losing integrity? This question takes us straight into the heart of what we've been exploring. Scale without integrity isn't leadership, it's empire. Trauma-informed leadership helps you protect your North Star. And what that means is that you codify your mission, vision, and values. You don't assume people know them. You're going to write them down, repeat them, embed them in your decision-making. Build flexible systems. Avoid the trap of this is how we've always done it. Systems should be strong enough to hold values, but fluid enough to adapt to changing realities. Mentor and multiply leaders. If growth depends on you alone, it's fragile. Train your successors. Trust people. Empower teams. Build repair into your culture. Mistakes will happen as you grow. How you handle them with humility, transparency, and quick repair determines whether your legacy is healing or wounding. Scaling with trauma-informed integrity means every new layer of your organization carries the same DNA of dignity, safety, and resilience. So what you've heard in these questions is that trauma-informed leadership is not a niche skill. It's not limited to therapists, nonprofits, or activists. It belongs in hospitals, military units, schools, companies, churches, and families. The thread is simple. Regulate yourself, hold dignity as your compass, build systems that embody your values, and model repair. Do that, and you multiply not just impact, but integrity. So I'm Krista Fee, reminding you that no matter where you lead, just yourself, a hospital ward, a boardroom, a classroom, or a firehouse, you have the power to be a beacon. You can steady the storm. You can spark the movement, and you can choose words that will outlive you. And always remember to rise up out of the ashes of your experiences and live and lead your life on fire. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Rise Up Trauma-Informed Leadership series on the Rise Up Voices from the Frontlines podcast. If you haven't yet, go grab your place in the Trauma-Informed Leadership course and community, or bring a customized Rise Up training, keynote, or program into your organization. Book your free consultation with me to see how Rise Up can help you live and lead with fire.
Become a Rise Up Hero sponsor to provide mental wellness and crisis response resources for those who serve country and community. Join us in the Rise Up movement today.